stared at Morgan's face for a moment, noting his genuine eagerness to accompany you to be tested. What you wouldn't give for another hallucination right now, as opposed to this physical, tangible problem. We give so much grief to things unseen, griping about their existence, but what problem is worse, the one that can't touch you or the one that can? You don't have to feel obligated, Captain. I didn't mean to put you in an unwanted social situation, Morgan assured, looking a bit puzzled by your hesitance. You assured him that he wasn't the issue. Perhaps you thought to yourself avoidance wasn't the answer. Maybe he could help you unknowingly. You wouldn't tell him about last night, of course. Rather, you would tell him that you wanted to put together a team of researchers to investigate the damage that was done to your suits and the research village's water purifiers. Such a team would need the R&D department, but would also need the help of mechanical and engineering to assess the anomaly's attack. After explaining your idea out loud, you quickly followed up with how you initially had planned to go to mechanical, and that testing would have to follow afterwards. That's why you weren't sure what to do with his invitation. The damage to the outside could become compromised by the water, and time was of the essence. You tried to sell it to him when you said brightly that he should come with you. Surely the presence of a security chief would help give credibility to your idea. Well, you make some good points, Captain. You'll need help from both Professor Arrows and Chief Harduke for that. And you aren't a high enough rank to order those two around. And what will you need from them? Just a few staff members, I suppose. You nodded in affirmation and added that, this way, you would be able to take the chief up on his offer to walk together to get tested. Ah, excellent, yes. Everything is panning out then. I think your idea is a bully one. We'll learn more about that creature yet. Good thinking. He reached over the table and slapped you on your shoulder supportively and grinned. There's a lot going on in that mind of yours. I can tell. We'll take your food on the road. Let's get going. Like you said, as the more time passes, the more information we might lose about the outside damages. Come along. You quickly picked up the few remaining pieces of food from your plate, tossed your tray onto a cleanup rack, and followed the chief. While you had managed to initiate the first part of your makeshift plan, the rest of it was foggy at best. You sifted through words, trying to find the right ones to be persuasive with Harduke, whoever that was, as you walked along the brightly lit halls of the research station. You took note of the captain's long strides. Any person of any size would have a difficult time keeping up with him. He swung his arms in a sort of way, a way which denoted he was going somewhere important. You wondered, if he were to be marooned in the middle of nowhere, with no prospects of a destination, if he would still rock his arms back and forth in such a way. Based on this sole encounter, you imagined the answer was yes. He broke up your thoughts, interjecting with a question. So, Captain, why did you come down here? You were silent for a moment. You don't like answering before you know what you want to say, do you? You grinned. He wasn't wrong. You explained that life was difficult above the water. You joined the military when you were young, needing to help provide for your family. You didn't divulge every detail, but you explained that your father was not able to work when he was older, and your mother and you had to pick up the slack while also trying to care for him. Did your siblings also help? You went silent again. Chief Morgan's was growing more accustomed to it now, and didn't push you to speak before you were ready. You opened your mouth, but this time the voice that came out was smaller. It felt more fragile, less readied to contend with other voices, or perhaps just less willing. You mentioned that they had passed away when you were young. You're Laudian, which means when you were young, you nodded, already answering yes to his words. I'm so sorry you had to live through all that. I'm so sorry to hear they died. Were they older, younger? You mumbled that they were both older. The oldest was a brother, the second oldest a sister. Chief Morgan shook his head. This world, what a horrible place it is sometimes. You know, what you went through, what a lot of your country went through, that's why Vital Flourish exists. After the health crisis, this company wanted to make sure nothing like that ever happened again. That's why I like being a part of it and being down here. You know, down here we're changing the future. That's something worth fighting for, Captain. Destiny is something made, not accepted. A warning went off in your head. Morgan was speaking to you like he wanted to make a point. You asked about making destiny and what that meant. Well, Vital Flourish's biggest export is Long Fragments, the crystals common off the coast of Lottie and now down here in these cave systems. The problem with Long Fragments is that they are incredibly scarce now due to their natural healing properties. And, of course, because they are the most prominent ingredient in the cure for paling. The Lottian government hired Vital Flourish to mass produce the cure using long crystals. The country was brought out of a dark time. It's inspiring to think about, Captain. We pushed back against fate. It wished us death, and we said no. We must choose to survive just as your mother country chose to do so. That's what I meant. You gently reminded the chief that the disease, paling, was self-inflicted by unregulated industrial factories, that the pollution had contaminated the water supplies. You understood his point, but suggested that perhaps there are different paths to destiny, some better, some worse. Always the thinker. Yes, I was right about you. If you are right, then I would suggest that our path is a good one. The cure did not just cure paling, but also provided incredible health properties to vaccinated Lottians and several other nations. Concerns about contamination have been reduced almost completely. As Lottians, now that time has passed, are practically immune to pollutants, even certain toxins and poisons, correct? The average lifespan has skyrocketed. Destiny, Captain. What is destiny in the face of someone who takes initiative? We can always change our futures if we're willing to do what's necessary. Ah, here we are. The doors to mechanical and engineering swooshed open, and both of you walked inside. The large hall was filled with tables, equipment, industrial cabinets, and heavy machinery. Whereas the rest of Circle Plateau seemed to be located on the white spectrum of the color wheel, M&E introduced some gray, black, and brown tones. Grease spots, overalls, wrenches, gloves. Surely this was the home of the lady you saw last night. Her outfit would make her a native to a place such as this. Chief Morgans guided you towards an office in the back. Now, Captain, as much as I enjoy bantering with you, I think the one you need to speak to the most is Chief Harduk. You passed a few cubicles, backed up from a welder and covered your eyes as you went to work, and glanced at a few engineers working through some sort of problem on a stand-up whiteboard. This is her office, right here. He opened the door for you and you walked in, poised with your proposal for a collaborative team, ready to search through prospective candidates, all in an attempt to find the woman who visited you. As soon as you walked in and stared at Harduk, however, you realized that that would no longer be necessary. Morgans walked in from behind you. Captain, meet Juna Harduk, head of mechanical and engineering. Her eyes grew bigger as she looked at you, and then Morgan's. It was her, all right. The woman from last night. There's two ways to get what you need. Do you use Chief Morgans to force Juna to cooperate? Or do you use diplomacy to show that you're on Juna's side?